Hey, welcome back to A Second Chance. My name is Philip Jones.
And I'm Tafaro Cook, two-time kidney transplant recipient and founder of Kidney Care Coaches, where we coach people with stage 3 to stage 5 kidney disease.
So today we have a interesting show for you all. But before we get into that, I'm gonna let Mr. Cook go ahead and say his speech on the 10 dialysis commandments, his book that he's written that'll be coming out soon. Mr. Cook, take the floor.
Yes, the 10 dialysis commandments. This book is about the 10 things you need to know and stick to if you are on dialysis that will help you survive and thrive during those times and help you also get a transplant. Okay, these are the 10 commandments on dialysis from somebody who's experienced dialysis for over a decade. And these 10 things definitely helped me survive and thrive while I was on dialysis. And I'm bringing them to you 10 small commandments that you must follow in order for you to thrive and survive on dialysis. Thank
Thank you, Mr. Cook. So we'll Mike's following. Sorry about that. All right. So today's show is 10 ways to control high blood pressure without medication. So this is very important. I think for anybody, just in general, really is we kind of affiliated with kidney disease more or less because that's kind of where kind of how we live our life. But high blood pressure can affect anyone. It's not just for somebody with kidney disease or anything like that. Um, anybody, any age can have high blood pressure. So this is something that's very important that we feel we need to touch on to be able to help people to be able to control the high blood pressure because this high blood pressure can start a number of things. It's kind of like a chain reaction situation. So we'll go ahead and get started. So number one is lose extra pounds and watch your waistline. So in general, men are at risk if their waist measurement is greater than 40 inches, 102 centimeters. Women are at risk if their waist measurement is greater than 35 inches, 89 centimeters. So uh, just basically, just kind of tone down on the weight. We're not saying that you have to be, you know, thin as a pencil or anything like that, but just kind of keep it at a weight that's not going to hinder you, give you, put you in that situation of having high blood pressure.
you. Exactly. And the reason why, one of the reasons why men in general with a 40-inch waist is visceral fat. The visceral fat is closer to our hearts, where women mostly carry their weight in their hips. Men carry their fat in their stomach, and that's closer to the heart. And that can be a problem, especially if you have high blood pressure. That's why the extra pounds, like Phil said, can cause men a big problem. That's why we need to get that waist measurement down. And certain ways you can do that is by eating the proper way and moving that body, getting some exercise. I'm not telling you to be a gym rat, but you do have to get your walk on, do a little bit of something to bring that visceral fat close to the heart. Again, that's where men's challenge is. We have visceral fat close to the heart, and that's why you see the blood pressure being higher in men than women.
So Mr. Cook, you have the next one.
Okay, exercise regularly. Yes. Regular physical activity, such as 150 minutes a week or 30 minutes most days of the week, can lower your blood pressure by about 5 to 8 millimeters if you have high blood pressure. It's important to be consistent because if you stop exercising, your blood pressure can rise again. And that's so true. Because what happens a lot of times with that, exercise is very, very important because When you start exercising, what happens is you dilate the blood vessels. The blood vessels get bigger. Just like, blood pressure is consistent. Like if you were playing with the hose, you're outside watering the garden and stuff, and you take the hose and you kink it, you see that pressure gets really, really big. And that's because it's restricted. And that's how the arteries are and the veins are in the body. If you're having a sedentary lifestyle and your nutrition isn't good. So it restricts and it gets more and more pressure, and that pressure builds up, and that pressure can cause problems with the heart, the lungs, the kidneys, all these other things. By you exercising, by you exercising, the veins and the arteries dilate. So when they dilate, that means the pressure releases, just like the hose. When you open up the kink from the hose, it releases, and also it flows better. Something I've seen a lot of times with ex football players, were ex athletes, I should say. They're exercising at a high level all the time. Okay, then their career stops. They okay, no more exercise. Well, you built this heart up to be this big. The heart was real, real efficient at one time, and all of a sudden you just stop exercise. What happens then is the heart is still big and it still wants to go like that. I mean, it's still efficient. It wants to go and keep on working because the heart's a muscle. But since you stop working out, what happens is those arteries and those veins, they restrict. They were dilated at one time, but they restrict. But the heart is heart is still efficient. It wants to push that blood through there because you were an athlete at one time. Then all of a sudden, with that pressure, that builds that pressure again, and that can affect the heart, and therefore your blood pressure can go up. So I tell all ex athletes, yeah, we're not asking you to, be the competitor you are by, killing it on the football field and lifting weights and stuff, but you still have to do some type of exercise because you want those veins and those arteries to be dilated. Okay, you want them to be efficient. You want the heart to be efficient, and that could be a problem. Go ahead, Phil.
Yeah, I agree with this 110% because I've dealing with this at 4. When I was younger, I did have high blood pressure issues and things like that. But once I got active consistently, going outside and playing as a kid and playing football, running track, things like that, I very rarely saw my blood pressure come up. Now, granted, this is just part of it for me because before I started being active consistently, I was on blood pressure medication. So I know for a fact that that is something that contributed to me having low blood pressure as well.
Hmm.
But this is something that's kind of because even with the blood pressure medication, every now and again when I go to an appointment, I have high blood pressure.
Hmm.
But when I started being active more, stuff like that was when I kind of saw consistently kind of stay down, and in the range that it needed to be. So definitely being active can help you. And like you said, he's not saying you have to go pedal to the metal all day, every day, weightlifting competition type thing and nothing like that. But like we said yesterday, man, the hardest thing to do is to start. It's starting. Start somewhere and progress. We're
And you
not
be
saying go ahead.
go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, you good.
Go ahead. I was gonna say you'd be surprised, Phil, how much exercise you don't need. If you do that little 30 minutes a day, it makes the blood pressure and everything else in your body work so efficient. And we're talking about some walking around the neighborhood, something that's even at a fast pace, or something you like to do, whether it's riding a bike, walking the dog. Any of this activity will definitely help you a lot, goes a long way in your blood pressure being down, and this is a natural way to this is a natural way to lower the blood pressure, and that's what we're talking about, just natural ways of doing it.
Right, right. So number 3 is eat a healthy diet. I'm gonna try to read this without uh because it's actually being covered. If you don't mind, Mr. Cook, read the when I
Yes,
get
I'll read it.
done with the first two, you
Oh,
can read
okay.
the last one for me.
Okay.
Um, so eat a healthy diet. It isn't easy to change your eating habits, but with these tips, you can adopt a healthy diet. Keep a food diary, writing down what you eat, even just a week, even for just a week, can shed surprising light on your true eating habits. Monitor what you eat, how much, when, and why. Uh, the second one is more or less for people not kidney dialysis patients, but
Right.
consider boosting potassium. Potassium can lessen the effects of sodium on blood pressure. The
Hmm.
source of potassium is food, such as fruits and vegetables, rather than supplements. What's that last line right there?
It
Say
says
after supplements.
talk talk to your doctor about the potassium levels that's best for you. Be a smart shopper. Read food labels when you shop and stick to your healthy eating plan when you're dining out too. And I agree with you, Phil, on that. And like Phil said, he gave a disclaimer right there. Well, if you're on dialysis and the potassium is high, or you're watching your potassium, we don't want you to eat any more potassium. You might be talking to your nutritionist, your dietitian, and they have you, uh, eating for yourself on the new on for dialysis, because we don't want you having high potassium on dialysis because that can cause other problems. But if your kidneys are working well, the potassium is really really good for you. Like it says, it affects sodium on blood and lessens sodium on blood, I should say, and that's very very important. And some of the best foods for that have potassium in them are sweet potatoes. That's a really, really good one. Bananas, that's a good one. Oranges, and regular potatoes. All these foods are on the outside of the store. When we talked to Kelsey, she told us, we talked about her. We talked about the foods
Right.
and how to shop healthy. And a lot of people holler about all the time. It's expensive to shop healthy. It's really not expensive to shop healthy. You can get you a bunch of sweet potatoes and doctor them up, and that food right there is almost like the perfect food. It has good minerals in it. It has the good carbohydrates in it. Those foods are good. The vegetables and things like that. I'm not telling you to go to Whole Foods and get them. That's a little bit more expensive, and that might be out of people's range. But if you go to Walmart and stuff and shop on the outside, you can find healthy foods that are cost friendly, I should say.
Yeah, definitely all those foods that you named are, on a little bit higher side of potassium, like I said, for kidney patients, but, citrus fruits just in general,
Hmm.
high in potassium as well. But for anybody
Bananas.
that doesn't have to watch, like you said, bananas, usually are like the number one thing people, nutritionists come up with when it comes to potassium, or like you said, potatoes. And I know, I know about the potassium thing all too well because that was a fight that was kind of in front of me for a long time before, that was kind of keeping me, off of being evaluated for the list of my potassium. And so, past 2 years, that's been, in range of where it needs to be. So I think I told you the story, but my nutritionist came to me one day and she goes, your potassium is a little too low. And so she's like, I need
Mm-hmm.
you to
Told me
bring
that.
your potassium up. And I looked at her and I'm like, yeah, we're gonna keep it right here because I didn't have to get yelled at too many times about potassium for you to tell me to start eating more potassium like foods. I'm like, no, I'm okay. I'm gonna go ahead and just, I'll figure something out, but I'm not about to just, go
Right,
willy nilly on a potassium
right.
foods to bring it up. Then I'm gonna come back and you be like, well, it's too high now. Can you come back? No, we're not going through that. So, but honestly, I'm gonna tell you what I did, and it's actually helped. It didn't bring it up too much, brought up enough for them to be comfortable with it. But I went and bought small bottles of orange juice, right? And I
Okay.
didn't go crazy on them. I wasn't 2-3 times a day in them or anything like that. I got like it was 24 pack. I drunk one a day. Whatever time of the day I felt like drinking it. Just one small bottle. You don't get get a huge bottle or anything like that. But you get something, get a small one, drink that, throughout, one time a day. You can say, half now, half later, or whatever, and that usually brings it up enough, to put you in range. That's what it did again. Where, like Mr. Cook said before, you can line 10 people up and get a different story every time. Everybody's different, so just because it worked for me is not a 100%, to say that it's going to work for you as well. It's just a way to go, and experiment on these things. So again, potassium for kidney patients, try to be cautious of those things. But also, like Ms. Cooper said about Kelsey, read labels. That was one of the main things she talked about when she came on the show, was reading labels. Reading labels are very important. And I found this out 100% because sometimes you just read the front and you may see the word organic or something like that, but don't realize that there's still extras that can be added to these things. And so always read the front and the back. Make sure that you know what you're buying, because one wrong move can put you in a bad situation. So the next one, Mr. Cook, is this one.
Wow, that's small. I believe it says to decrease sodium in your diet, consider
You got to
these
read number
tips.
four first.
I'm sorry. My bad. I was so focused, it's so small. I was like, man, I got to focus on this. Reduce sodium in your diet. I agree with that. That's big. And sometimes my wife and I we have a challenge with that because I feel she's heavy on the salt, and she thinks I like bland foods. And I keep it real, man. From to a normal person that's never had kidney disease, I probably do have a bland palate, and I'm okay with that because, for so many years, over a decade being on dialysis, I had to be super conscious of how much sodium I was putting in my body because I could retain fluid. And even I have a kidney now, I still can retain fluid every now and then. So that's why I'm very cautious of how much sodium I have. And so we have that little challenge. She's like, it doesn't even taste like that. I'm like, good, I like it like that because I ain't got to worry about salt. You know what I'm saying? She ain't
Right.
got to worry about that. Her kidneys are wonderful. But with us, we got to be cautious of that sodium. So reduce sodium in your diet. Now I'll start reading. To decrease sodium in your diet, consider these tips. Read food labels. Phil was just talking about read food labels. They're so important. And like Kelsey said, she said anything over 20% is considered high. Anything under 10% on the label is considered low. So choose low sodium alternatives of the foods and beverages you normally buy. That's so true. Eat fewer processed foods. That is so true. Because if you like Cheez Its and potato chips and stuff like that, those things are very tasty. But boy, they are loaded with the salt, man. They put it on you. So if I'm watching a game or something like that, man, and I start eating some chips and you can't just eat one, boy, it's gonna do you in, man. I could tell I got a lot of sodium going on. So that's very true. Only a small amount of sodium occurs naturally in foods. Yep. Most sodium is added during processing. He's so right. Again, the processed foods are loaded with salt. And I don't even want to talk about the other stuff, potassium and sugar, but that's a whole nother podcast we could talk about that. So that's super true. Don't add salt. I agree with that. Like I told you, me and my wife, we have it over and over that I feel she's heavy on the salt. She feels I like a bland diet, a bland diet. So I don't use too much salt on my food. Matter of fact, I don't put any extra salt on my food at all. You ain't got to worry about that at all. Um, just one level of teaspoon of salt has 2,300 milligrams of sodium. Man, that's a lot. That's a whole lot. Use herbs and spices to add flavor to your food. Again, I am a Mrs. Dash proponent. Okay, that's my girl. If I got a relationship, I have a relationship with Mrs. Dash. She got all kinds of flavor. I'm keeping it real. She be saying she be doing the food right. You know what I'm saying? Ease into it. If you don't feel you can drastically reduce the sodium in your diet, suddenly cut back gradually. That's true. So if you go, what happens is the palate, I believe like 14 days to 21 days of the low sodium. Then once you go back to the regular sodium, you won't want it. So your palate give your palate time to change. So so you can gradually move into these areas. Your palate will adjust over time. That's what I'm talking about. Your palate will adjust. Once it adjusts, you won't want those salty foods no more. You'll taste that salt after 14 to 21 days. You'll taste that salt and you'll be like, this stuff is way too salty. So I'm totally in agreement with that.
Whew, mic almost fell again. Yeah, I'm actually with you now. After so long of you know, very slowly changing what I eat and how I eat. I've gotten kind of used to the somewhat of a bland diet myself. I
Hmm.
cook now like this week for my meal prep. I did chicken breast, and
Hmm.
it was very 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 light seasoned. Before it was like I need to put the whole goddamn bottle of seasoning on this for me to eat it, right? But then that's when I realized when I was younger that sodium was a key thing, and
Yeah.
why my blood pressure was so high when I was younger was because at that time I didn't, I want to be a kid, that's what my mindset was. I've said this before. I didn't want to be treated like Philip the kidney patient. I wanted to be treated like Philip, the kid. Like I wanted to be a kid. I want to live as a kid, as opposed to as a kidney patient. And so that's how, when I was at my cousin's house, it was liquor store, ice cream truck, seasoned food my auntie cooked and everything like that. So I know for a fact that that was part of my high blood pressure when I was younger. And so when I got older and started realizing these things, I was like, okay, yeah, I need to change somewhere. Otherwise, I'm not gonna be walking around here much longer at all. So
Right.
um,
Right.
sodium in your diet is very important. Try to bring it down some. I'm not, we're not saying that you have to, cut all the salt out your diet. I mean, it would probably be best, but some people just can't go without a little bit of salt, which is understandable. Seasoning is good. I'm not,
That's why I believe in, like I said, Mrs. Dash is my girlfriend. I really believe if you use other stuff like Mrs. Dash, natural herbs and spices, you can get the flavor you want. You don't have to go to this alternative salt. Coming from, I'm a black man, so I come from a black family. My mom never cooked with a whole bunch of salt in the first place because my dad was always health conscious. But when I would go to like family reunions and stuff like that, they cook the food where they wanted it to taste good, so they will go hard on these seasons. That Lowry seasoned salt, all that stuff, man. They was dumping it, and when I would even eat other foods, I'd be like, "That this is salty," because we didn't do that a lot in our household, but again, when you come from the minority family, the black family, they throw down on the salt, and that's why we sometimes do see high blood pressure, diabetes being in our community a lot more, because of the sedentary lifestyles as well. But again, we have to watch that sodium, and I think your food naturally has a lot of sodium in it as well.
yeah, definitely. I'm with you. Especially like you saying, reunions, picnics, just chilling at the park, barbecues, Fourth of July, things like that. Like everybody in my family on all ends barbecue. So it doesn't matter what's going on. It's barbecue 9 times out of 10 on a holiday, except for like Christmas or Thanksgiving, something like that. That's all my family does is barbecue. So
Yeah.
I understand it 100%. My I think my issue that I'm slowly getting away from is going to probably take another lifetime for it to happen is macaroni and cheese. Macaroni and cheese for me is my weakness. Like for real, like since the beginning of time when I started eating solid foods as a kid, man, macaroni and cheese. My mom makes it. My sister knows how to make it. All my sisters know how to make it. I know how to make it. My stepmom knows how to make it. Everybody in my family knows how to make macaroni and cheese. So there's never a holiday where there's no macaroni and cheese around me. So normally I'm eating like 3, 4 plates of macaroni and cheese. And I'm, at this age of being 32 and dealing with, everything that I've dealt with, I've tapered it down. So now I'm at like one, 1.5 somewhat. And not even like, and when I say plates, I don't mean full plates of just macaroni and cheese, but as a side dish to what I'm eating. So um, like we said before, the hardest thing to do is to start taping yourself off, and you'll progress and get to the point where you don't even need whatever it is that you're trying to get away from anymore. So definitely reduce the sodium in your diet. Very important. Number
Right.
five. Oh, go ahead.
Well, I just want to read what Bella said. She said, "I'm a Mrs. Dash fan." Also, as soon as I was diagnosed, I cut beef, pork, and salt out of my diet, which is really good because when you cut those things out, man, your body works a lot more efficient. She's so right on those things. She also said, I never reincorporated any of them after my transplant, which makes a lot of sense. And don't get me wrong, man, macaroni and cheese, people love it, but I think you can prepare it with not so much sodium. And I like it too. But even if it's laced with a lot of sodium, you also have to use some moderation with that. You know what I'm saying? You just can't go crazy with
Yeah, it's also the amount of cheese. I think you just said the amount of cheese that you put on it, plus you got milk, which,
it.
adds to all that. It's a lot of
Right,
stuff in macaroni and cheese that makes it what it is. So, if you could find substitutes to certain things or, cut down on some of it, like I'm not gonna lie to you, again, macaroni and cheese fan. Cheesy mac and cheese is to me is the only way to go. Nice brown top on the end, come out the, I'm not even gonna get into all that. But that's like you said, that's what we grew up around. That's what we so when you get to older, in life after having those meals for so long, and then you're like the doctor's like, well, I'm gonna need you to cut back on the mac and cheese or on the bananas or on the citrus fruits, and you like that's the only fruit that I like is citrus fruit. Like, so what am I supposed to do? Figure something else out. You have to make these adjustments to be able to live. Like we talked about yesterday, you don't do it just to survive. You do it to live because just surviving can mean you laying in the bed all day every day and just open your
right,
eyes, go to the bathroom, and come back and lay back
right,
down. But you want to be able to
right.
live, travel, go to school,
Hmm.
graduate, go to work, watch kids,
Well,
grandkids.
again, that's called quality of life. You want to have a good quality of life, not just maintain it, but a quality of life where you can go do what you want to do. You want to play with your kids, if you want to play with your grandkids, not just existing, but having a good quality of life. It makes a difference.
So number 5 is limit the amount of alcohol you drink.
Mm,
Alcohol
mm.
can be both good and bad for your health. By drinking alcohol only in moderation, generally one drink a day for women or two a day for men, you could potentially lower your blood pressure by about 4 milliliters. One drink equals 12 ounces of beer, 5 ounces of wine, or 1.5 ounces of 80 proof liquor. But that protective effect is lost if you drink too much alcohol. Drinking more than moderate amounts of alcohol can actually raise blood pressure by several points. It can also reduce the effectiveness of blood pressure medications, which is definitely true, especially when it comes to the blood pressure medication. And I like how this was written because it's not telling you that you have to stop it, 100%, go cold turkey and don't drink ever again. But it's saying be moderate in what you drink, and and how much you drink, because that can be a big plus to why you're having high blood pressure. And so you want to keep it to a minimum. Again, I'm not saying that you have to just stop and never drink again or anything like that, but keep it to where like say one. I wouldn't even say one a day or two a day for men. For me, if you're gonna do anything, do maybe two the week or something like that. Maybe do or just the weekends, something like that. So definitely try to cut back on the alcohol amount.
Yeah, I drunk alcohol 2 years of my whole entire life, and well, it wasn't the best experience for me. So then after that, I drunk from like 21 to 23, and then after that, I was like, no more alcohol, I'm done. And I just never liked it for me. Now, for other people who like it, that's their prerogative and stuff like that. But one thing I say about the alcohol is it can affect your medications, and I've seen where Shell said that also. Shell says it all depends on what medications you are on. I totally gave up alcohol because sometimes the alcohol can affect those medications and either increase them or dilute them or do something like that. So you really have to be mindful on what the medications you are on, and if you're going to be drinking alcohol at the time, because again, the alcohol does raise the blood pressure or affects it in one way or the other. So I'm not an alcohol person at all. So, but you're right about what you said about it. Moderation, keeping it to a minimum, and what I see when people get transplants. I know a couple people who got transplants that still, occasionally have a beer or occasionally have a cocktail or something like that, which is fine. There's no problem with that. But I very rarely see anybody that has a transplant or have a problem with their kidneys and they're still going hard on alcohol. And that's just me. Now, some people see people go hard and they got all kinds of challenges with their health, but who I don't, though. So,
Okay, I think you have the next one, right?
yep. Oh, sorry, I could have moved my. Okay,
Oh,
go
that's
ahead.
right. I forgot. We have the chart. So this is a chronic kidney disease chart. It breaks down the percentage of where the causes of kidney disease comes from.
Hmm.
So here's I'll make it a little bit bigger so you can see it. I know it's kind of
Yeah,
small with that viewing. So we'll start with the 7%. So 7%
yeah.
is
I'll read them. I'll read them because
go
it's
ahead.
my turn. 7% is glomerular disease, which is true. That's my disease. I have glomerulonephritis, is what I had. 6% is miscellaneous. 4% unknown. 4% type 1 diabetes. 3% is polycystic and hereditary, polycystic kidney disease. 3% is nephritis. 3% is tumors. 42% type 2 diabetes. And that is the leading cause of, of kidney disease, which brings us up to 28% is high blood pressure. The two leading causes, I say again, I even have those on my website, high blood pressure and diabetes, the number two and one cause of kidney disease. Go ahead, Phil. I'll let you read the other ones.
Before we get into that, we had a comment that says this from Bell. It says, as far as the alcohol mixed drinks are the absolute worst. Enjoying a glass of medium dry to dry red wine is healthier for blood pressure and even for your heart.
Hmm.
My personal fave is I'm not a wine drinker, so and I know most of the time these names are different, so I'm not going to embarrass myself and try to pronounce that. Um,
It says my personal fave is Menage Trois Soft Red Blend. I think that's what she said. And
that's what
and
I thought
I've
it said too, but I wasn't sure. So,
I've been to Napa Valley and stuff like that where people drink wines and they had like wines and stuff like that and enjoy them and stuff like that. And she's right. You can have a one you can have a glass of wine, and it is good for your heart. If you look over in Italy and stuff like that, these people drink red wine, and their heart disease is way down, and they drink it pretty often. Even they
Right.
even give the youngsters red wine and things like that, and they all have red wine with their dinner and things like that, and they don't see any heart disease at all. And so the red wine is good for you if it's in moderation. She's right about that. That's totally right about that.
Yeah, it's really frequent out there. They drink it a lot. I have a cousin that lives in Milan, Italy, so yeah, it's
Hmm.
definitely a choice that they prefer out there. Um, so it says 10% of the population worldwide is affected by chronic kidney disease, and millions die each year. 26 million
Uh,
American adults have chronic kidney disease, which adds up to about 1 in 10 people. The
mhm.
risk factors: diabetes, high blood pressure, family history, overweight, smoking, over 50 years old. So 1 in 10 out of, then this is a worldwide number, 10%,
That's crazy, ain't
26
it?
million. That's a big number.
Think about that, man. You see 10 people all the time. You can go into Costco, you go into any store, and you see 10 people. You mean to tell me out of that 10, and we see groups of 10, somebody has kidney disease? That's big, man. That's 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 whoa, that's crazy. I want to read what Bella said right here. She says, they are super healthy, Tafaro. When I went to Paris, those people are in excellent physical health. They are, and I think because their diet is a little bit. They drink their wine and stuff, but they don't eat a lot of processed foods. They might eat cheese and wine and stuff like that, but they're not like eating potato chips, eating the Cheez Its, the things that we eat. The all the snacks and everything. People just diet off them snacks like it's going out of style. And so those things are the ones that can cause a lot of problem. And what happens with those is a lot of times with those foods, people eat them all day long with like this their natural diet. Eating chips all day long, eating. Go to the cupboard. I'm hungry. Go to the cupboard and get chips, opposed to getting a real meal. Something good for you. They just eat. I eat a bag of chips and get full off a bag of chips if you only know what they're doing to you. And I feel they're addicted too. So that's pretty profound. She said, I didn't see one obese person while I was in France. And that's true. And what they do, they're not necessarily lifting weights and exercising all the time. What they do is they walk a lot and they might ride their bicycles and things
Right.
like that. Right,
That's
which is a
exactly what I was about to
natural,
say.
yeah, which is a natural thing that it's just, hey, if I'm going to the store, I'm gonna walk to the store. If I go to over here, I'm gonna walk to catch the train. I'm gonna do these things, and it stops the sedentary lifestyle, which is really really important. I'm gonna talk right here with the chronic kidney disease facts. I'm gonna talk about the risk factors. Now, the risk factors is some of these. You see them up here. It says diabetes, high blood pressure. Oh, you cut me off right there. High blood pressure, family history. Family history is a big one, because if it runs in your family, it's hereditary. She's right about that. Uh, Overweight, yes. We got a lot of people, when you look at their BMI, the overweight is severe. Smoking. Smoking is another one. Obesity and smoking. If you do that for a period of time, you're definitely going to see some challenges with that. You're definitely going that's a red flag to the fullest, man. And it says over 50 years old. Yes, when you get older, you definitely want to start watching these things. She also points out, and based on those numbers, don't you guys find it interesting that more attention is given to CDK? It's almost like a pandemic. Uh, uh, she's exactly right. So we got people walking around, you know, almost like time bombs. You know what I'm saying? Time bombs to the point, that what happens when we see a lot of people going to kidney diseases, they crash into dialysis to the point where they get sick and get in a coma or have a coma and then crash into dialysis, wake up on the dialysis machine. How many times have we seen that happen? And people are like, "What's going on? Well, how did I get here? Well, your kidneys failed." And then they look back like, what happens is what most time when that happens is your body was giving you some signs, but you wasn't recognizing them. You didn't know what was going on. You didn't feel sluggish. You just pulled through, kept on going through, and then all of a sudden you crash into dialysis. A lot of times people crash into dialysis because they don't know. They don't know. Just like when we talked to Tiffany yesterday, Tiffany talked about, hey, I was working out, I was exercising, I was doing this. I go in to get a corn, take it off my toe, and then they tell me, I got, I'm in full blown kidney disease. A lot of
Right.
times people don't know why, because blood pressure, high blood pressure, and kidney disease are like silent killers. People don't know. They don't scream until it's time when it's going all bad. That's what happens. She says right here, also 29% of transplant recipients end up with diabetes. I'm sure a big reason for that is their immune support suppressants. That could be true too. That's why we talk about, the prevention of diabetes, the prevention of high blood pressure, and that's not having a sedentary lifestyle, doing something that's going to keep you active, doing something that's like Phil said, watching your sodium, all these things like that, especially after you get a transplant. A lot of times people think I got a transplant. Well, when you get a transplant, the work is just now starting.
Right.
Now you got to stay up on your medications. Now you got to keep that kidney healthy. Now you got to get your water in. Now it goes from one end of the spectrum to the next end of the perspective of staying healthy in these things now. So, right about that.
All right. So before we keep going, we'll go ahead, take a quick commercial real quick, and we'll get back into these next couple steps. All right, so welcome back to a second chance. We can get back in these last few slides of how to control high blood pressure without medication. And so the next thing on the list, next slide, is quit smoking. Each cigarette you smoke increases your blood pressure for so many minutes after you finish. Stopping smoking helps your blood pressure return to normal. Quitting smoking can reduce your risk of heart disease and improve your overall health. People who quit smoking may live longer than people who never quit smoking. So basically, what it's saying is that, even if you did smoke at one point in your life, you know, quitting is pretty much the goal. So if you can quit, then you have a way better, like Mr. Cook brought up before, quality of life than somebody who just
Mhm.
continues to keep smoking and doesn't want to stop. That's very important, especially when it comes to heart disease, because me and Mr. Cook have been a part of some conferences and symposiums over the past year, and the one thing that we've really kind of come to an understanding is something that we already know, but kind of got more information on, is that the connection that the heart, liver, and kidney have to each other, and what that
Mhm.
can mean if end up with heart disease, which could lead possibly to kidney failure, liver failure. It's all connected. So certain things can trigger certain effects in other places. So quitting smoking is very important.
Yeah, I would agree, man. The smoking, what it does internally is it hardens the arteries. You know, when it hardens the arteries, your blood can't flow as well. When those arteries get hard, those veins get hard. Again, they start to get smaller and they collapse, and they can cause a lot of problems. And that's when the heart disease comes into play. You know, and let's talk about smoking cigarettes. That is one addicting thing right there. And a lot of times people have a challenge, to stop smoking because it's so addicting, but that can cause a lot of problems. Bella says, and lung disease. Yes, lung disease is another one that can cause a lot of problems, and that's what smoking does. You have these little capillaries in the lungs, and they can become damaged by the smoke. But one thing about the lungs is this: by you said quitting smoking, the lungs will regenerate after you quit smoking. They will, come back to life. The body is amazing, but if you do all kinds of bad stuff to it, that's what happens. These things happen. But if you reduce or quit smoking, your body will come back. Your health will get better. She says more and more lung transplants are being done in Tampa General, and that's true. And I wonder, the lung transplants. I wonder how many people have are smokers or long-term smokers who are having these lung transplants and things like that. And the lung transplant is no joke. Don't get me wrong; any transplant is no joke. But the lung transplant, have you ever seen the scars they have on people after they do the lung transplant? Boy, I'm telling you, you go through some stuff with that one.
You know what I
But
want to see the
yeah.
number two though is because it's something that before is it being addictive, right? So
Hmm.
what I want to know the answer to is how many people that kind of goes with what you were saying, was how many people have lung transplants because they were smoking. I want to take it the next step further and say how many people, which it's a sad thing that we have to think about, but how many people that have had lung transplants lost them because they couldn't stop smoking.
I'm a hope after a lung transplant. I'm gonna assume nobody's gonna smoke after that. After they give you the
Hey,
precious gift of lungs, I'm gonna
but
think they're not gonna smoke. That's what I'm gonna
you
think.
would think that, but again, certain addictions for certain people aren't easy to kick.
I agree,
So,
man, but I
you
can't.
know,
How can they even give you a transplant if you're a smoker though? A lung transplant at that. I think they just.
exactly.
I think they will screen that out. We ain't giving nobody a smoker, and we're gonna give you a new pair of lungs. I, if it was up to me, you ain't getting no new pair of lungs if you're a smoker. Why? Because the other person that needs those lungs aren't smoking, and you're gonna continue to smoke. No, you're not gonna get that. That's too precious for me. Let's read what Bella says. She said also Harvard University did a study that proves it stunts the growth of teenagers, and most of them smoke. That's true. You know, that's why you see some of these, these people, these guys that start smoking at 12 and 13. Your body grows to at least till you're 18, and you're gonna be a lot smaller than what you're planning to be if you're smoking cigarettes or smoking anything for that matter. It's true.
Yeah, we might just have to add Bella to the show because she hadn't. She's probably inputted more than anybody else that's ever been in our comments. I think the only people that may be close to her is like Jared and Jonathan and Trish or something like that. But
But what she
um,
says is so true, though. I love how when she chimes in. That's why I read them because she's on point with everything she's talking about. So I
right.
got to get that love.
So you got the next one, right? The
Yep.
this one. Mm-hmm.
Cut back on caffeine, right? The role caffeine plays in blood pressure is still debated, and it is because some people will say, I've heard studies where they say the caffeine doesn't do anything to your blood pressure, and then they come out with their facts. And other people say the caffeine does this X, Y, Z to your blood pressure. So the debate is still out. Caffeine can raise blood pressure up to 10 millimeters in people who rarely consume it. But people who drink coffee regularly may experience little or no effect on their blood pressure. And again, I think that goes back to just that person, who they are, feel like we talk about. You can, set 10 people aside and they can have one person can have a cup of Joe and they're fine. Another person have a cup of Joe and their blood pressure rises. So that's more of an
Right.
individual thing. Although this long-term effect of caffeine on blood pressure aren't clear, it's possible blood pressure may slightly increase. Yes, on some people maybe not. If to see if caffeine raises your blood pressure, check your pressure within 30 minutes of drinking a caffeinated beverage. If your blood pressure increases by 5 to 10 mm's, you may be sensitive to blood pressure raising effects of caffeine. That is so true. Talk to your doctors about the effects of caffeine on your blood pressure. Again, this is an individual thing. Some people could drink caffeine all the time and be fine. Phil, let me get your take on that because you told me, off camera, you and I talked about, caffeine and everything. Yeah, and you said you were an avid caffeine drinker when you were younger and you had high blood pressure. Do you think that might have affected your blood pressure?
I'm pretty sure most of the stuff on this list is something that contributed to it outside of like smoking and alcohol. But um, yeah, I'm pretty sure this is part of it as well. Outside of the fact
Was
that,
you
like I
ever a
said
drinker?
before,
Was you ever a drinker?
no, just the only thing I really drink is caffeine. I've never
Okay.
drunk alcohol or anything like that.
Okay.
So for me again, that goes back to what we addressed earlier with the exercising and being active and stuff like that. I think once this is one of those things that, like it says, cutting back on, and I added more activity to my life and being active and things of that nature, that also helped with bringing it down as well. But yes, I was for all intents and purposes an addict to caffeine with coffee, more or less. And so but like it says here, caffeinated beverages, it doesn't necessarily specify with just coffee or anything like that. That means anything with caffeine
Soda
in it.
pop. Soda pop.
Keep
And
that
that's
right, soda.
right. And I was that kid when I was little. I would steal my mom's Pepsi, and she go down there like, "Where that Pepsi at?" I be like, "Oh shoot, she gonna get me," because I be stealing that Pepsi because I thought, man, I love that Pepsi. And back in the day, you had the bottles, and that stuff was strong, man. You burp it up through your nose, you be like, that carbonation. but you loved it. I loved it. I loved it. And I take that beating for that daggone caffeine Coca Cola, and I didn't know
Man,
at the time it had cocaine. I mean cocaine, but coca. It did have that in it too at one time, but I didn't know it
right.
had caffeine in it. But I was still my mom's Pepsi colas and stuff, man. I'd be bouncing off the walls, running around the house like I'm crazy because all that sugar. So
Man,
yeah,
I think for any kid, we was like, if it was in the house, we wanted it.
that's it.
I was
Especially
the
when they
same
said you
way
couldn't have
too.
it. Yeah,
Right. I was the same way too, bro. I'm not gonna make it seem like you the only one, you in your own little island. I was the same way. If I brought my dad on here right now, he'd tell you, I refrigerator 3 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, man, I'm about to give me a soda, like,
right,
and then
right,
try to hide it at that, like, like
right,
he wasn't
right,
gonna get
right,
caught, you know.
right, right.
Um, but those is the good times about being a kid. I think the difference between us doing that and a number of other things was that we weren't doing it intentionally just to be bad kids, and we didn't, and that's how we ended up coming up the way we are, not being those types of people. So, but so to us at this point it's funny. Then it caused us to get a butt whooping, but
Right.
so it wasn't that funny to us at that point. But it was a great drink though when you got it, wasn't it? Like that was awesome until you got a whooping, and then you was like, why did I do that again? And then you did it again. He was like, that's why I did it because it's
Right,
good.
right, right.
But
I remember the first
yes,
time I gave my daughter, man, when she was a baby, I gave her a little sip of Sprite, and she didn't even know what it was. So I put the little cold can up to her lips. She was like, man, I just had feeding her crazy for Sprite to this day. So I would give her. She was, man. Every time I had a Sprite, she would stop what she was doing, be like, I want some. I just had to give her a little bit, man. But I'm telling you, man, when babies get that soda pop, it was all over, man. They did. Let's read what she said. Bella said. She said, "I stopped drinking pop. What us Northerners call it, right? Because we used to call it pop. So went down south. Everybody was like a soda, and in New York it was soda. When I was diagnosed, also, and never returned to it. Maybe a little diet ginger ale if I was had an upset stomach. That's true. Now I will take some a little ginger ale every now and then if my stomach is nauseated or something like that to help me, burp or help my stomach just relax a little bit. Also, dark color
that
pop
is
is
very important.
absolute. Yeah, dark color pop is the absolute worst for kidneys. Yes,
That
because of the
phosphorus.
phosphorus and things like
Yep.
that, and the phosphorus and sugar. But there's one cola that's dark that's not bad for you, and that is
Root beer.
root beer. Root beer, right?
Root beer. It was
Something
funny because I
awesome.
was actually gonna put that as a question in the comment, and he was like, "But I know you move fast. So I'm not even tripping." But yeah, no, definitely root beer is the one that was crazy that I didn't know that. Um, I found that actually out at dialysis when I was in center hemo,
Hmm.
and our dietitian used to come around like once a week with this cart. The carts they have in the hospitals and stuff, and they put stuff on, bring you the newspaper on it or something like that. And she would go around to everybody, and she had a billion bottles of drinks on it, and she'll point to it. You got to answer yes or no. And I remember the
Mm.
first time she put, I all I knew in my mind was dark sodas were a no.
Right,
And she
right,
pointed to root beer,
right.
and I was like, and I looked at her like, was this a trick question or something? I'm like, no. And she looked at me and she said, actually, you can. And I was like, well, why didn't anybody tell me this before? I love root beer.
Right, right,
Like,
right,
I,
right.
I could. This is where I could have got my fix at right here. Like, because I like a real cold Coke or Pepsi. I'm good. But when I found, had to cut that out as well. So I'm like root beer. I'm like, there we go. I'm like, I'm
Yeah.
good now. I'm straight. I don't care. I can go without a Coke and a Pepsi. I got root. I'm good to go.
Right, right, right. My
Right.
wife, she likes she used to, she doesn't do it anymore, but she likes Dr. Pepper. And I was like, how you like that stuff? A and W was my fave. And I ain't mad at A and W. I ain't mad at A and W. She says, especially root beer float. Lord, I feel you. That that's a killer right there. That's a lot of sugar in that. And hey, but if it works for you and that's what you like as a treat, Every now and then it's not bad. It's not gonna hurt you if in moderation. We don't have a problem with that.
So number 8, reduce your stress. This is even small for me, so I'm not even gonna. I'm gonna go ahead and make this a little bigger. Change your expectation. Was this me or you?
That's you.
Okay, I was
I
going to
can
make
read it
sure. It
though if you
seemed
want
like
me.
it was yours for some reason.
I can read it. You want
No,
me to take
I
it?
got it.
Okay.
Change your expectations. For example, plan your day and focus on your priorities. Let's take this off for now. I cannot
It
read.
says, I believe it says avoid trying to do too much.
Okay. Avoid trying to do too much and learns to say no. Understand there are some things you can't change or control, but you can focus on how you react to them. Focus on issues you can control and make plans to solve them. If you are having an issue at work, try talking to your manager. If you're having a conflict with your kids or spouse, take steps to resolve. Now, I'm actually going to stop right there instead of waiting, but I understand everybody don't have a friend relationship with their managers, and those aren't the one person that you can necessarily go to or anything like that. And so I'm going to kind of counteract that and say if you don't have that type of buddy relationship with a manager or superior that at your workplace, 9 times out of 10 you work with somebody that you cool with. Now unless that's the person you got a problem with, then you may be in a little bit of trouble. But if it's not, then go to that person, a break, lunch, whatever, try to talk to them, try to get it out venting that way, or call somebody or whatever. Because it's not always that you have that great relationship with a manager or boss or anything like that. So just to let you know that that's not the only way that you can go if it's a workplace situation. Um, avoid stress triggers. Try to avoid triggers when you can. For example, if rush hour traffic on the way to work causes stress, try leaving earlier in the morning or take public transportation. Avoid people who cause you stress if possible. That's very important. Make time to relax and to do activities you enjoy. Take take time each day to sit quietly and breathe deeply. Make time for enjoyable activities or hobbies in your schedule, such as taking a walk, cooking, or volunteering. Practice gratitude. Expressing gratitude to others can help reduce your stress. All of these points are very important, especially um, with number 3 and 4 here, where it's saying, if you're that type of person that has road rage, don't drive when there's a bunch of traffic. Sometimes you just can't get around it. Some people just can't drive. That's something we all know. But if you can, like I said, try to leave earlier. Where you can, not necessarily cruise to work, but drive comfortably, get there okay with no problems. Um, and then it says make time to relax and do activities you enjoy. Yeah, walking, writing, whether knitting or things like this. Probably this is something that relaxes me. Doing this is to be able to be informative to the people and stuff like that. And so and then Bella says yoga, meditation, prayer, music, rest. These things are definitely good things to be able to do, especially the meditation and the yoga. Those are ways to kind of get your mind at ease and relaxed, and and put you in a good place. Mr. Cook.
Yes, for sure. One thing I want to address right here, she said something that was, she says easier said than done for many people. There are currently 9.7 million people on anxiety medication in the U.S. And this is a good segue for what I'm going to say about this. And it says right here, avoid trying to do too much and learn to say no. And what I mean by that right there is that really means to set healthy boundaries. Understand your time. Understand what you can do and don't be a people pleaser. You can't do everything for everybody. Set these healthy boundaries. It's okay to tell people, no, I'm not going to be at this thing you want, this event. No, I cannot do that for you. Why? Because you have to take time for yourself. And a lot of times the people pleasers have a lot of anxiety because they're trying to please everybody. So you have to set healthy boundaries. And I believe when you set healthy boundaries, that's when you create, you create less stress in your life because you're able to say no and people respect you and they will respect your time. A lot of times, again, we want to try to be everything to everybody. And we can't be everything to everybody, and that's how we lose ourselves at times. So that's why it has to be important to set these healthy boundaries. And I agree with what everybody else says. My morning routine. Set a morning routine and stick to it. I pray, I practice gratitude, and then I meditate, then I hit the weights. That's my morning routine. And I stick to this routine and I love it. It starts my day properly. And anytime that this is distracted in me, my day feels like it's kind of off. That's why I stick to this habit of creating my day the way I want it to be. And doing these things and these little things, a deep breathing, not breathing from the chest, but breathing from the belly when the belly needs to go up and down. These create, relaxation tips, the meditation, the yoga, taking a walk, volunteering, talking to good friends, talking to people that you can relate to, not talking to people that, are Debbie Downers that always have a problem going on. A lot of times people want to put their problems on you. No, no, no. I'm gonna set that boundary. You have your own problems. I ain't trying to hear that. But I tell people if you want a friend, you got to be a friend. Don't just come to your friends with all your problems. Like, oh, this, guess what's going on? This. Gloom and gloom. Nobody wants to hear that all the time. I'm not telling you, you can't talk to friends about challenges, but bringing your challenges to people all the time and having a negative attitude, that's not going to solve anything. I think everything else you're talking about here, what you said, Phil, was absolutely right. But I just wanted to talk about, setting, healthy boundaries, which will create less anxiety in your body and who you are.
Yeah, I want to say I'm meditate in the morning more or less, but I just, when I get up, I just try to, clear my mind. I don't even turn on TV on first or anything like that. I just kind of sit here on the edge of my bed and get myself together mentally. Be grateful that I'm still here. That
Hmm.
type of thing, and just kind of
Hmm.
ground myself and get myself ready for, what hopefully can be a productive day. And nothing can go wrong. So, um, those things are definitely
Yeah, I
important.
want to read. I want to read what Bella says. She says, "Yes, these are definitely good things to implement for changing your thought process and then your body will follow." She's exactly right. If you're thinking negative, you're going to feel negative. There's just a vibration. If you're thinking positive, you tend to think positive and things work out. The universe goes with you. It flows with you. I do meditation. Sometimes I just sit quiet with my meditation. Sometimes I do a guided meditation, but these things work for me and I love them. I enjoy them, man. And it's one of my daily habits I do. So, yeah. Okay, number 9. Monitor your blood pressure at home and see your doctor regularly. That's so true, especially if you're a kidney patient. We all have those monitors. Just take your blood pressure and see what's going on. And, do it at different times of the day. Sometimes in the morning it might be a little lower. Sometimes in the daytime when something's going on, it might be, elevated a little bit. But let me read this. Home monitoring can help you keep tabs on your blood pressure. Make certain your lifestyle changes are working and alert you and your doctor to potential health complications. Blood pressure monitors are available widely without a prescription. Talk to your doctors about a home monitoring before you get started. Regular visits with your doctor are also key to controlling your blood pressure. Yes, I agree. Even if you're not sick, you still should have a monitor that you can take your blood pressure at home. That should be just like a prerequisite, like you got band-aids in the home. Have a blood pressure monitor because it says a lot. Especially if you're taking it on the routine and you start seeing it elevated. That's letting you know right there, check something's going on. And I say all the time, especially for men, get a checkup, get a physical, like Tiffany said, not just a regular physical where they checking your blood pressure and stuff. Go get you a blood work every at least once a year. We're not telling you to do it all the time, but at least once a year. If your blood pressure is well controlled, check with your doctor about how often you need to check it. Your doctor may suggest checking it daily or less often. If you're making changes in your medications or other treatments, your doctor may recommend you check your blood pressure starting 2 weeks after treatment changes and a week before your next appointment. That is so true. And if your blood pressure is running good regularly, your doctor might say, okay, you don't need to have it as much as that, as much as anybody else, or he might just, cut you down a little bit, but checking it. But I really think a monitor should be at everybody's home. Go ahead, Phil.
Yeah, definitely something that it should be. I think consistent. I think that's something that you can do that you don't have to go to the doctor for. That's why I say you can monitor your own blood pressure. But the one thing that's I think very true when it comes to what was just said here is um where it says talk to your doctor about home monitoring before you get started. And the reason why you want to do that is not so much because it's something hard to do. I mean, all you gotta do is, read it, write it down, and keep going. But you need to know what you're looking for when you
Right,
are monitoring it, right? You want to know
right.
what where your systolic and stuff like that needs to
Mm-hmm.
be, what's high, what's low, what's in range, what your pulse rate needs to be, and things like that. So talk to them is not so much to say, oh, you can't read a blood pressure machine, but it's to make sure that you know what you're reading on the blood pressure
Right.
machine. So definitely consult, your primary physician or nephrologist or cardiologist, whoever you have to go, you see as a specialist or whatever. That's very important. Definitely it should be one in every home for sure because you may not, you never know, you may be in this situation that is caused by high blood pressure, but because you don't check it or don't even have one around to say, let me check and see if this is a problem before I go to the hospital or whatever, and you get there like, how high your blood pressure is right now, something that
Right.
probably could have been prevented if you would have known or had a machine at the house. You go walk into your whatever, your pharmacist or CVS, any place like that. Pretty much any store really has a section like that for like healthcare. So you can pretty much get a blood pressure machine.
and and they're pretty accurate. I remember back in the day they were funky, man. They were whack. You'd be like, what in the world? Is reading all kinds of crazy, but now they're pretty much accurate. They got them figured out pretty good now.
Yeah, I've never really had any big differences when it comes to me doing it at home, and then when I get to the hospital, and it's like you do take it at home, and it's like, oh, it's normal, and then you go to the hospital, and it's like, you see how high this is, and you like, wait, what? I've never had that issue, so I agree. They definitely have made some key adjustments over time to get them where they need to be. So you definitely, if you can monitor these numbers at home, very important. It'll definitely put you in a better situation health wise. Just like how we were basically stating yesterday, man, it's about being uh, your own advocate, advocating for yourself and being in charge of your health. It's not, you don't want to wait till you go to an appointment to figure out you have high blood pressure. Catch that ahead of time. It
Right,
takes nothing but a minute to put the cuff
that's
on,
right,
hit the button, let it blow up and deflate, and you get a number.
right,
So
right.
it's about caring about yourself. And like you said, it's everything that we talked about goes back to the one of the first things you said earlier, which is your quality of life. You take care of yourself, you find things early in advance, you get it taken care of, you go back to living your life and keep it going.
I agree.
Oh, is this me? Oh, that's right. I'm sorry. In my mind, I kept thinking I had all odd numbers, so I was like throwing off a little bit. Number 10, get support. Supportive family and friends can help improve your health. They may encourage you to take care of yourself, drive you to the doctor's office, or embark on an exercise program with you to keep your blood pressure low. If you find you need support beyond your family and friends, consider joining a support group. This may put you in touch with people who can give you emotional or a boost and hold on a minute. Who offer practical tips to growth with your condition. So support is very important. I mean, me and Tafal kind of know the support side, all too well because that's a big part of, why we're here is having that support, family, friends, things of that
Right.
nature. So, if you can, I say this often, be some support to somebody. I'm not saying you have to be there all day, every day, live with them and do things, but offer some assistance every now and again. And when I say support, that doesn't mean just to somebody who's sick or, it's nothing, just offer a helping hand. If you know somebody down the street that's elderly that can't really get around too much, or, that gets packages or things like that. Hey, you need help with this getting in the house, or, you need me to drive you to the grocery store, go pick something up for you, or anything like that. That's support. Again, I'm not saying you have to call every day. Hey, you need something. Hey, that would be great, of course, for some people because they need it. So if you can't offer that, great. If not, nobody's mad at you. We just saying at least try to be of some help to somebody at some point in time.
I,
If it's walking somebody across the street, I did one of the simplest things before, and it took me a while to really understand what I did. I mean, I did it because it's who I am, but um, I was in the area that I live in. I was walking somewhere or from somewhere back home, and I saw this guy. He was came out the food place, and he was elderly dude, had a cane, and the ground was real messed up, real messed up. It was uneven and cracked and all kinds of stuff. And he was having a hard time getting to his car. And I just for a minute I just wanted to make sure he just didn't like get off balance for a minute. So I just stood there and kind of watched a little bit. And I watched him take a couple of steps. And so then when I got over to him, I was like, do you need help? And he was like, I would have definitely appreciated it. You might not always get those types of answers. Sometimes you'll be like, no, I'm fine,
exactly.
and
Right.
whatever. But it's just the fact that you thought about it to say, let me help this person do X, Y, Z. You know,
Right. Right.
so that also be is a reciprocation as well. So yeah, we need support, as individuals as well. It's not always necessarily about us giving support, but sometimes you're in a position where you need support. Have those friends and families that you can call, when you need to talk or say, hey, can you come over and help me with this? Or, whatever the case may be, right? I'm gonna give you a real quick example before I let Mr. Cook end it. I took an anthropology class, 8 weeks, semester is 16 weeks, but it was a short period class, so it was 8 weeks. So it was double the work in less the time, right? Um, I have a friend, and Tafar knows Brandy. Brandy is an anthropology major. I called her every time I had an assignment to do for that class. And I know I wouldn't have, I mean, I know stuff, but I don't know everything. And I know this, but that was my support for that class, right?
Hmm.
And she never said no. When she had the time, she helped me. And it's what got me through that class was to be able to go to her and say, hey, I need help with this, or can you check this, or
Right.
whatever the case may be.
Right.
So definitely have somebody in your support corner as well.
Again, man, I'll just make this short. Um, support. A lot of times, people don't fight through their challenges because they feel like it's just them. Nobody cares. So when you have that, nobody cares attitude or nobody's around them to give them that support, they quit fighting. I've seen it happen. I see a lot of people like, man, what's the use of me fighting for? I ain't got nothing to live for. But if you do have that friend or that family member that's supporting you, that's going to be that encouragement to keep you going. And I'm just going to say this. I'm just going to keep it real simple. It takes a friend to be a friend. That means you got to be a friend if you want to, be a friend. And by you giving like that, it reciprocates in its own. The universe will provide for you also. So that's why I truly believe that. But again, you said it all, man. You said a mouthful with that one, and I don't need to say anymore. Just what you said was spot on, brother.
Well, that is our show for today. 10 ways to control high blood pressure without medication. We appreciate everybody that was here, that joined us, that watched. Uh, Thanks, Bella, for all the information and Jim she threw at us today, as always.
Yeah, she killed it with
Definitely
the gym.
appreciate.
Hey, don't forget to like and subscribe.
Yeah, definitely don't forget to like us. That was my next button I was about to push. Hey man,
Go
but
ahead,
I
push
don't
it,
argue
man.
when people are
Push it.
ahead. That's a good thing.
Push it, brother. Push it.
So we'll be back Sunday. We'll be back Sunday. That's all I got for you, honestly. We hadn't figured out a topic, but we will have one. We will be here same time, 5 o'clock Pacific, 8 o'clock Eastern. Um Monday I'll be on Bella Hopes for Healing. That is on the I've never gotten his soul name right, so I'm gonna just say Steve Belcher's uh, YouTube, the that he's in charge of, um, and so definitely looking forward to that. And so with that, we'll see you on Sunday.